As you know, when I first came to Australia, didn't speak a word of English. Like, didn't even know what hello meant. And he laughed. And I said, Frank, why are you laughing? I don't mean to laugh, but just the way you said it, it sounds like...
Are there any hidden talents that we don't know about?
I'm actually a trained coffee barista.
Really?
I can make some awesome latte art.
Singapore, David, and I said Singapore, and he said Singapore is Rome. She goes over, and this is like the show, not rehearsal. She goes over to get the mic, and that was a moment where I was just so taken and spoke to the parents. I said, wow, moms and dads, the world that is unpredictable. You could never stage that moment. That's a moment of champion mindset.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Beyond The Boardroom, a series where we get to know more about companies listed on the Singapore Exchange and their key appointment holders. I'm Natalie Ong, Equity Analyst with CGS International, and with me is CEO of CGSI Singapore, Mr. Malcolm Khoo. In this episode, we turn the spotlight on MindChamps. With a market share of 38%, MindChamps has the lion's share of the Singapore premium preschool market. We are super delighted to have with us today Mr. David Chiem, founder and CEO of MindChamps. David, great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Natalie. Good to be with you. Yes.
David, how are you today?
Hi, very good. Thank you, Natalie.
Can you share with us a little bit about your journey from Vietnam to Australia and how you eventually settled down in Singapore?
Obviously, I came to Australia, in fact, in 1978. So we actually escaped from Vietnam as both refugees. That was when I was 9 years old, and we were so obviously, excited that Australia accepted us. I still remember my dad said literally that for every one of us that made it, through that journey, literally somebody died, and that resonated deeply in me. This is like our rebirth. Growing up with that mindset, every day I was very big on everything you do, how can we contribute to society? And how can we also make sure that nothing is taken for granted?
And how about Singapore? How did you end up in Singapore?
Yeah, later on, by the time that we were looking for a place to establish our world headquarters, Singapore was right at the top of the list for MindChamps. Because at the time we thought that in order to truly prove this model, this new education model to the world, we realized that Singapore truly is the gateway. And Singapore is the gateway between the East, the West, and the Middle East. I remember saying this to our chair of research, Professor Alan Snyder. And I said, what do you think of Singapore if we're going to, look at building a new education model to bring to the world? Where would we, take this? And he said, Singapore, David, and I said, Singapore. And he said, Singapore is Rome. Rome as in, Italy, Rome. And he said, 2,000 years ago, if you want to test anything, it was Rome. And he said, for early childhood education, if you really want to take this to the world, Singapore is Rome. As you know, my background before education was actually in the arts. I studied both theatre and then cinema, both as an actor and then behind the camera, and, for about 7 years. And worked in both theatre and cinema in Australia for many years. I started acting when I was just 14. I was the first Asian that Australia cast in a leading role in Australia. This was 1984, so that's 1984, that's about 40 years ago. So you know my age now.
Yeah. Do you have any memorable moments from your time at MindChamps? And maybe what do you learn from this experience?
I remember one moment where we had one of the K2 graduation where about 150 of our children, 6-year-olds, were graduating, and we actually created a special musical for them. Yeah.
Oh.
And so there were 150 children on stage doing a 50-minute musical specially written for them. And what was amazing was this: there was one moment, where one of our champs, and this is like full house auditorium in a professional theater. She goes over, and this is like the show, not rehearsal. She goes over to get the mic, and in that moment, she goes over.
You couldn't find it?
She realizes there's no mic. Yes. So whoever was supposed to put the mic there from the production team, somehow during the stage change, missed that. Yeah. And she goes over and there's no mic. And what was amazing was this, and you could see how mine going, there's no mic. Yes. And on stage,
Subtitles came on.
That's right. And on stage, a moment of silence is a long time, So anyway, you could see her realize there's no mic. And then she looks around, there's no mic. And then, this was incredible. She then instantly mimed and created a mic.
Oh,
She created a mic and mimed it. And then she spoke confidently and louder to the whole audience with her mime mic. And all the parents were like, wow. And then what was amazing is this, yeah? She then, when she finished her line, she then passed her mic that she created to the next champ. And the next champ picked it up and he started speaking and they started to pass these mics. That was a moment where I was just so taken. And then when I got up afterwards and spoke to the parents, I said, wow, moms and dads, we can't be with them 24/7.
yeah.
However, the world that is unpredictable, you could never stage that moment. That's a moment of champion mindset. Her incredible tenacity.
And creative mindset.
The champion, because in that moment you could either fold and go, and freeze and cry, or create, have the confidence, the champion mind. Then the creative mind.
Yeah.
Malcolm, you're spot on. Yeah, you know us.
That's truly amazing, David. And so now to the fun part. David, can you tell us something interesting about yourself?
As you know, when I first came to Australia, didn't speak a word of English. Like, didn't even know what hello meant. As an Asian kid, in our culture, I didn't get to learn, including, table manners, when you finish eating, how you put your knives and forks and those things, yeah. And I remember him teaching me, the director, his name's Frank Arnold, and amazing. We were so close and he taught me this. And then he said that if you're at a really formal, like poshy dinner, and not just how you use your knives and forks and how you, and he said, but when you finish eating, yeah, and if people want to come and serve you more, you want to, let them know that you've had enough. He said, this is what you say. So this is what he taught me, and I still remember it so clearly. Back then, my accent was still very strong, yeah. So he said, once you finish your dinner, and this is classy restaurant, they come, they want to serve you more, and you say, this is what you say, David. And I said, what? He said, you say, thank you very much. I have had elegant sufficiency. So when he told me that, I said what I said, and he laughed. And I said, Frank, why are you laughing? And he said, David, I don't mean to laugh, but just the way you said it, it sounds like, thank you very much. I have had elephant sufficiency. And I said, yeah, elephant, yes, elephant. I've had a lot, elephant sufficiency. And so look, and that was a moment for me that I realized that, obviously, learning the language, and learning it the correct way was so important. People might not know is that I make really good Diju Chinese congee porridge. Yes.
Oh,
okay.
Teochew.
Yeah, and somehow as a little kid, I was always very good at, because when you're cooking the Chinese porridge, Diju style, you got to have enough water and enough of liquid and enough of kind of like, if you can make it slightly creamy, but not too dry. Anyway, my dad used to always want me to make it. Even though my sister sometimes would make it, my dad would go, I want you to make it. So that was one thing, even though I don't cook many other things, but that's one thing I do really well.
So we're going to have a small request next time. We're going to have it at MindChamps.
Yes.
So how about you, Malcolm? Are there any hidden talents that we don't know about?
I'm actually a trained coffee barista.
Really?
So I can make some awesome latte art.
Wow. Yeah.
But I do it for fun.
Yeah.
But I believe I can do it better than most Starbucks barista.
Whoa.
And, that to me is just a hobby and just something I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what's the most intricate art that you've done? Unicorn.
Yeah.
No, I'm not there yet.
So thank you so much, David and Malcolm. And that is it for this episode of Beyond the Boardroom. Stay tuned for more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scene insights.
Park your talent somewhere else. Talent is everywhere. He said those who rely on talent will eventually even max out. He said now you're here to learn the craft.
Zero fear about asking the right questions.
This might be half true, that might be true, but that might not be true, and the brain then synthesizes the three. We form a very strong mindset. Things are happening too quickly, and minds are forming judgments. And the mind says, I know, very quickly, without respecting